Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Small Bones Studios vodcast. Today, we will be speaking about how we're recovering from GDC, or alternatively, I was jealous of everyone who went to GDC, and I want to know about every single bit of it. We're joined by a couple of our amazing members here at Small Loan. I will give you both a chance to introduce yourselves, some of the stuff you're excited about, and we can just hop right into some of our experiences. So, first, my name is Hermione Ibe. I am the marketing lead here at Small Loan. I'm not sure if any of you want a popcorn. or if I'll hit you with the popcorn for introducing yourselves. But otherwise, popcorn, Kelsey.
Kelsey, she, they. I'm a UI UX designer. I went to GDC for the first time this year.
Sensational.
I'm
Pop.
Isaac. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a writer, narrative designer, and this was my second GDC.
Incredible. Ooh, fancy. I love that. I didn't think in terms of like true GDC veterans. I know two is a lot to say veteran, but I'm like, I don't know. That's pretty beefy because everyone, even by the time of this goes out, a lot of people are posting their GDC pics, and it seems like an absolute whirlwind. So, um, at the top, let's start it. What were some of your favorite lessons at GD or from GDC? And I started with Kelsey. I'm gonna hop over to Isaac for this one.
Cannot do everything.
Mm,
That
There's
is,
too much to do. There is everything to do for everyone. You are not everyone. You're not even two people. You're one person. And coupled with that, it's similar but different. Don't take it personally against your body if you're tired. I'm a I'm a disabled person, and so I was extra difficult on myself rather than extra gentle. But I am approaching 40, and I saw people who are half my age with, I think they were able bodied, young, healthy folks being like, I am spent. I have done it. So it's not normal. It's a mode. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So also, the thing kind of like game dev is no matter how much preparing you do, it will not go to plan. So it's about being gentle with yourself and others and being adaptive.
Kelsey, what was one of your top lessons from GDC?
yeah, partly to add to it, it's that you're surrounded by so many people that are passionate about very similar things to you, and they might
Mhm,
be coming from a different perspective. Like, if you're not part of narrative, suddenly you're around a bunch of narrative people or
mhm.
around a bunch of voice actors, or you never know who you're around. And a lot of that adrenaline can carry you. That also means you might forget to hydrate. So they try to remind you, your friends will, or eat some food. Um, and I did get the advice, oh, you should be up, 7 a.m., go until like 1 a.m. I could not do that. So it was really important for me not to take that against myself. And I think another lesson was I realized after meeting so many people, I would probably forget people's names, even though I would recognize them as I passed them. So I tried to keep a notebook of like I met so and so at this place. That lasted for about a day or two. There was just so many faces in such a short amount of time. So I tried taking pictures with name tags and taking the little QR codes, and I think there's still a little bit more experience to be gained to like make the perfect you know situation out of gathering all those names in that way. But a combination of that has somewhat worked for me.
Can I share an aside based on what you just said, Kelsey?
Yes.
Something I noticed. I'm I have self worth, but I am small potatoes in the large scheme of game dev. But I noticed a lot of folks I look up to and folks that are just straight up smarter than me about or have more knowledge than me, or higher profile, were covering up their badges in selfies. Or if they were posting photos, they used editors to blur because, and I'm assuming this, I didn't actually talk to anybody or look anything up, but I put it together. The GDC QR code that comes on your badge has sensitive information like your home address. So that piece of data is maybe for live scanning and pushing the button and connecting through that momentary thing rather than taking a picture of and distributing through social media a picture of the QR code. It can be handy, but I don't know if there was full same paging between all of the hundreds of thousands of people or whatever that was there. And I loved your idea about the notebook and writing down that. I took like one selfie throughout the 5-7 days I was there, whatever. Not clever. A lot of people like to have evidence that they were actually there and post about it on LinkedIn. And I had FOMO and I was there. I just didn't grab that content because I was busy listening. But, that still benefits me. I just don't get to make a fancy post about it. Some people, my friend Christy, have, it's either explicitly on her business card or she just uses the back. But every time she handed a business card, she was like, all right, where are we? It's like afternoon, Tuesday, Yerba Buena, to remind folks where and how they met. And like sometimes people would do, like we talked about penguins. And I think that's a rather clever thing to have done.
Sounds like an absolute, it's like a grounding exercise. Like you guys, like what did I
It's
see?
a
Who
nice
was that?
benefit.
Yeah,
It feels like you guys have been navigating this. It feels like professional, but an also interpersonal way to flow through this through GDC. Because like on one hand, it is a networking event and it is an industry event. Like I've had friends who did go and they were talking, oh, I spoke to this person or I spoke to this executive. But then it is, I will say I am not shocked, but it is really interesting to hear like Comic-Con rules as the first top lesson. Like I can't see everything, I can't do everything. I'm doing what I can. I'm doing my best. Man, I really I do love and appreciate that because I don't think that's really as much of a focus anytime with any networking um, idea. I really think like just documentation or evidence that you were there. If you were at GDC and no one's around to see it, were you there? And I dare even say I argue with some people like seeing your post or like I was like I've seen for anyone listening, I've seen both some of their posts. I've seen Kelsey's like extensive documentation. I've seen Isaac's, and at the same time, I'm like, I'm still jealous. Or at least like from my perspective, it's interesting hearing about the badge thing because I would, I was creeping. I'm not gonna lie, I was digitally creeping and seeing everyone like blur out the QR code, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm not mad at it. Do you? That's your life. But seeing a lot of people do the same thing, I'm like, there's a reason. This is a trend. Definitely a data security risk, but it is really interesting to see just learning how we all kind of would navigate that space because I know I would. First of all, I'm not a morning person. I am a get up at a decent time. 9 a.m., 8 a.m. is an achievement for me. 7 a.m. till 1 a.m. I'm not clubbing. I'm tired. None of that. Um, but yeah, I would have absolutely just crashed. But I think it's really good to always keep that in mind. And while you were both gallivanting, having a beautiful time, or having an interesting time, I'll say, because it could be very nuanced. What panels really challenged your thinking? Because like there was one panel I would have loved to astrally project and attend, but I don't have the power. Kelsey, I want to start with you first, if possible.
gosh. All the panels I attended, I did enjoy. I'd say I liked the Silent Hill 2 panel because they were talking. It was the I'm gonna butcher the team name. I think it's Bloomer or uh something like that. But they had
We'll
to
pop it in the show notes.
yeah. They had to translate from the old Silent Hill 2 to remake
Mhm.
it. So they were talking about how did they keep some of the old feel from Silent Hill 2
Mhm.
and engage their old fans and also new fans into the experience. And they talked about how small changes, like when they changed the camera from more of a third person view instead of an overhead situation, how that affected things like boss fights. They had to change the size of the room and how the boss acted and things like that, and certain interactions in the world, and all those little things were changed just because of the camera. So that kind of challenged me a little bit in that um, I got to see it from a couple different perspectives of how players' experience would change.
Really think it's interesting because when it comes to remastering, or if there's ever a movie reboot, even at that level or any medium where people are familiar with the source material, you have to kind of balance the ire of the fans. And I do think it's really cool how it kind of fed into their entire process. Because at least when I saw some of your posts and what you were like sharing with some of the other small owners, it was just like the level of depth that went into some of the designs. Like 3D scanning gloves so that the hands looked fused. Like that is absolutely bananas. It made me think of Monster Hunter, how like they video project textures of food on the food, and it's like that looks so delicious. That's because it's food. But yeah, little things like that that you would never know. Like also, I'll be honest, I don't want to be so close to Pyramid Head to where I know what their hand looks like. I love this knowledge at a distance. Please stay away from me. Um, Isaac, what was a panel that really challenged your thinking?
I can think of two. My first would be Amanda Farrow's panel on multi-classing. I first got into game dev with a thought of being a generalist, maybe even a solo dev.
Mm,
Um, and I quickly found that it's just, I'm a writer. Whether or not I'm actively putting a pen down to paper, that's a little bit of who I am. It's a core part of me. I'm also a musician, but the drive and the Tao of my game dev journey, the
mm,
way is towards narrative. And I think some early things I read, which may be quite outdated by now, mentioned like find your specification.
mm,
Um, and that may have been aimed toward AAA because we all know indie, it's about hats.
mm,
But I liked everyone on the panel sharing their experience and singing the praises of the agility we can have, the resilience we can have if we multi-class with our skill set. And I believe it comes from, like a lot of things in game dev, just broadly software, but the T-shaped model of learning. And that's kind of what I've done with, you know, level design isn't not narrative design in a way, but I could really push harder on my schedule of study and say, I have some inclination towards production. I could really skill up there and not be quiet about it, because early information, again, people are like, don't confuse your message of your resume. Don't say you do production, music, and writing. People want a writer, do a writer. And that's fair enough with your resume, because we can tailor our resumes toward the exact gig we're applying for. But doesn't mean pretend you're not also a producer. So that challenged the notion that I had been taught early on that specialization was security, which maybe it was, but we're in 2025 and we don't really know what the landscape is or how it's going to change. The other one was a professor from University of Portsmouth, Adam Jarrett, talked about Beyond Empathy, Frameworks for Embedding Prosocial Values in Games. And it challenged me in that the content wasn't the very lazy or old fashioned maybe presentation at a GDC would be, all our games are too kinetic and not psychological enough. Let's have more empathy. It wasn't a simple message about empathy is good, do empathy. This was beyond empathy, as the title says, discussed, different psychological frameworks of we can understand what certain characters are going through, defining empathy within the framework or the experience of playing a game. And I have a bunch of notes that I cannot read because my handwriting is terrible. But I just remember feeling like this wasn't the obvious spiel. This was good. I want to rewatch it whenever it's uploaded to the vault. I thought a couple people might have had their feathers ruffled by what was said, because I think the speaker was challenging, like, including a character who is not a cishet white man in your game doesn't mean your game has representation. That's just a single spot of inclusion. And so,
Like, yeah. Let's go.
right. So, and yeah, it was interesting and nuanced, and I think it bears re-experiencing for me. I know that they recommended Values at Play, a book about game studies, and I bought it because I couldn't help myself. It's right over there on my shelf because I do that stuff. I read game studies books all the time as much as I can. Yeah, that challenged my preconception of what the talk was going to be about, and how a lot of the conversation goes about empathy in games, about, like, well, I'll shush after this. I think it's really interesting that in her book, Writing for Games, Hannah Nicklin says we shouldn't have a goal with our games to force an audience, a player, and the person experiencing what we're creating, force them to feel a certain way, because at that point we're not creating so much a game of an art experience or a piece of literature as we are practicing brainwashing. Even if it's for so-called left-minded ideals, we usually, or I consider brainwashing like Manchurian Candidate, like you want someone to go do a thing. But it's an interesting balance to me of how do we lead the player or suggest to the player. I'm always thinking of this as narrative designer. So these ideas of, so many stories can be emergent. How do we know what a player is going to feel? Anybody watching this who's not a writer, a lot of game designers and generalists define a game developer's job, be it the code, the music, the level, art, anything, of we're trying to get the player to feel something. So it's a pretty broad idea. And I suppose empathy isn't something that you feel. Maybe it's how you feel. So if you have access to the vault, or if it's put up on YouTube, I'd recommend checking that one out.
Yeah, I think so many thoughts, especially the lessons learned, in the context of where the industry is now, right? Well, specialization is no longer safety. Things about really leaning into the human element, beyond empathy, beyond like what. Because when I heard the title of the talk, you're like, okay, like I know what's coming, but then that banger right there had me like, all right, we got. I like depth. I like digging deeper into the iceberg. But before I sit and yap on all the patterns I'm seeing, Kelsey, I know you are a UI UX designer. What are some of your thoughts on like these approaches towards game design? Because a lot of your research presuppose a lot of psychology goes into it. Do you find, at least from some of the notes, if you've attended this panel, I don't know, that's why we're here, or even any whisperings going on about it, do you have any thoughts around uh, this iceberg that I fell down on, like what going beyond empathy may be?
I think I need to watch that talk because it sounds like a great talk. I did attend the multi-level talk,
Oh, the multi-classer, yeah.
multi-classing
Oh,
talk.
I'm so jealous. I want to. You don't
Yeah,
understand.
it was beautiful.
I'm
It
so
Strong
pumped.
panel.
I'm
Strong
so
panel.
listen. Once I think I learned about it because Sun M is on the panel, and I'm
Yep.
like, yo, Sun M is one of the coolest. Like, they may never see this, and that's fine. But I think Sun M is one of the coolest people to do it. Like, I
Agreed.
had a coffee chat a long merry time ago, and I was like, this person's cooking, and I need to cook on this level. Before I yap on, what were your thoughts on the multi-class panel? Because apparently everybody was in the room, but me.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I went, I thought it was a great talk, not just because of the people there
Yeah.
presenting, but also it's not often that I've heard people talk about the benefits of being a multi-classer in indie or in a
Mhm.
AAA environment. Because they talked about why that might be good in a AAA environment, and also for those who might be interested in multi-classing, is this beneficial to your
Mhm.
career?
Mhm. Mhm.
Usually when I talk to people kind of similar to Isaac, uh, I'll say like, oh, I have some UI experience, some UX, some research experience, and I'm often told, you should really just specialize or focus a lane here. Otherwise, people get confused. It's too
Mhm.
generalist. They won't understand what you're good at. So it was really great to hear that, and I'm hoping that they come back with I don't remember exactly what they said, but I think they said they might come back with a follow up panel to that
Mhm.
next year. So I'm excited. Hopefully that goes through. But I think it would be a great movement to see that empowered in this industry.
Absolutely.
Not to
Okay.
just gas up the people that I like, it is a fact. It was the only panel, it was the only talk I went to in one of those rooms where it was standing room only. And
Mm.
people were like, it was like one in, one out. And I had to stand. I'm disabled. I shouldn't stand for longer than like 2 minutes. And I stood for like an hour
Oh,
because it was just fire. It was really
wait.
great. It was good energy. And Amanda fostered a sort of,
Mhm.
it was a little conversational. People were giving a bit of a narrative of how their journeys in game dev, and they've worn different hats and how
Mhm.
that built them up as this multi-classer. Uh, I did you play Final Fantasy V?
Me? I did
Yeah,
not.
that's the origin in the RPG. There's a pixel remaster now, but
Mhm.
it's kind of a mess if you have a certain kind of mind. But you put different points. It's a different way to think about economy
Yes.
uh, in a game design, but also this is your life, and so it's kind of like,
There's no
okay,
resetting stat points.
right, right.
You are
It
locked
was
in.
they were very personable while
Hmm.
it's like serious. This is we talk about our careers, but these are our lives. Like I can never get over the first GDC I went to last year
Hmm.
was where I learned the stat of like most devs make 5 games and then they're done. Like
Mm.
that's their life. Like wild because I'm indie out on the outsides of the industry doing game jams where I make very 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 small games and
Hmm.
I've already made 10 or 12 of them.
Hmm.
But I've a real game, a big game. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't blame anybody for being choosy, right?
Yeah. I actually to now I can yap for 50 years. But the idea of that's what's refreshing, what's interesting, what is desirable at this point in the industry, because to Isaac's point, back to that specialization is no longer security point, then what do you have to lose in terms of there are people who have been impacted, they're leaving the industry, people who are dreaming of getting in, and I know, like, I don't think it's much of a hot take, but I personally am like, just make games. And I would absolutely love a world where everyone is like strange scaffolding it. Everyone has like 15 games, just pumping them out. And when I go to your wiki, there's like 20 games under your name, maybe 30. And I think finding value outside of corporate validation is kind of where we're at. Because again, to another point, it's like it's software. We're a creative and entertaining medium that are also defined by like tech rules. So I personally always stress because like the the non-linearity of time. Like, am I too late to get into game development? Am I too early? I have experience, I have none. It's just existentially, I'm tired.
Hey,
Existentially, that's it. That's the clip.
that's
Existentially, I'm tired.
that's GDC 2025.
That's we should totally title the episode Existentially, I'm tired.
I
Um,
I think so many people felt rejuvenated by it because we got to be with our people. Like
mhm,
we got to be together in person.
mhm.
And just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Listen, we talked about how everybody was tired and still recovering. It's April, right? Maybe
Mm.
we all just have long COVID, but we don't need to get into
What?
that. But,
Hey, hey, either code for the body or code for the soul. All right.
well,
Oh, wait, I
but
can't. Can we say that?
I think
Can I go on YouTube? Is that legal?
I think I think there's something about. Of course, I hung out with narrative people the whole time.
Mm.
Like I know there's virtue in if you have a specialization, go be with an artist and a programmer, and because you can't make a game alone. What are you going to do with 10 writers? You're going to do a visual novel, but um, being with writers the whole time, it's like, well, I'm in like the most difficult specialization in one of the most difficult industries, game development, in a world that is on fire. So all of these realities are like compounding. So that was my broad take of GDC is that everybody's kind of tired and it's a spark like for brand not brand new, but newer people are like, "Oh, this is exciting. We're together. There's juice. We can synergize. We can. That's the corporate speak, but it predates corporations. The synergy is real. The juice is real. The vibes were real.
Delicious.
Everybody, who I was around and who I wanted to be around, they were bright, flaming people, like people on fire,
Mhm.
like but yeah, the tiredness, it was a balance of both. It was both and.
So definitely now I have to like charge that energy, cast it at Kelsey, because I want to know your perspective on how you socialize, right? Did you find yourself hanging out with a variety of disciplines, or what occurred when you were like with other writers versus with other UI UX people, or I don't know how you did it. Obviously, I wasn't there, and I'll tell you what I did, but what was it
Um,
like?
Going into GDC, I thought, okay, I need to identify the people I know going, and then
Mm,
I'll find them. That's not really what happened. I couldn't the people I messaged, I think they were already doing things, so it was hard to talk to them, that kind of thing. So I ended up having to make new friends essentially. And I was like,
mm,
wow, I'm a bit of an introvert, how is this going to work out? And I found it was really easy if you just looked around, saw what they were wearing, and that's actually how I started conversations.
mm,
So I went to Day of the Devs the on Sunday, so
mm,
right at the start of the conference, and I saw people coming down for the train, and I saw
mm.
they had game related shirts, and I said, "Hey, are you going to Day of the Devs?" And they said yes, and we had a whole conversation until basically the next event. Um, and just picking up those small interactions were enough to spark an interest. And most of the people I hung out with were not UX designers, but I found that kind of refreshing to hear a different perspective. So I'd randomly meet narrative designers, and they'd show me all their fantasy books, and they're like, "You got to read all these," and explain why they were important. I talked to some producers and people who are, you know, uh, making their own side projects and voice actors, and it was for me it was great to hear a variety of voices as someone who's interested in multiple things. So I got to hear different ways of how people live and be part of the game industry. I met somebody who's starting his own studio, and he's been in the movie business for the past couple of years. So he he was explaining the difference between the movie industry and the games industry and why he preferred the games industry at this point. So these were all conversations I wouldn't have normally had, especially if I had gotten the all access pass where I went to the UX summit for the entire day and just hung out with UX people. I think I would love to go to the UX summit, but that is not the pass I got for this time. But I don't regret that for this experience.
I love how human. It all
Yeah.
boils down. We're all people, and in both directions for very human reasons, going to interact with every little person as possible, but also for very human and soulful. Probably like I don't know why my brain thinks soul feeding, because that sounds more negative connotation than I
So
like.
nourishing.
Soul nourishing, yeah, huh, synonyms. Um, uh, for going with people who get it. Like it's very weird being in a state because kind of in this multi-class narrative, you're living multiple realities. You're working through different frames of thought at once. A marketing person would look at Mario different than a writer, different than a musician or UI. Granted, we all have to work together, teehee, but um, I really like just the range, the gradient of experience that comes from going outside your comfort zone and being like, nah, anchor in this comfort zone. This is my zone. I both of which seem really cool. I know I was at least in my sphere with hashtag GDC at home. It was already people I follow, right? It was already people who I thought were really cool. Thankfully, I was also on Blue Sky, so their algorithm was like, "Do you know this person?" And I'm like, "No, but I could." And just really just like being just a digital gremlin and just like voraciously seeing all the really cool social interactions or people who I'm like, you're a 3D artist, you're hanging out with your friend who's a writer. I know for one of the really interesting experiences, at least at home, there was a Black in Gaming Award, and all the winners who were there, or people who nominated, um, they had an awards ceremony, and it was so cool because I know I couldn't make it. I would have loved to be there, but seeing the speeches that were given, and again, really trying to really hinge on the social motive, the social, or like, I don't know why my brain thinks social imperative, but just like the more human reasons why we're in this industry, what we're here to do, the the work and the developments or the games that we're making have a bigger meaning than just bam, we made a new AAA title with brand new ray tracing utilizing Nanite and Lumen, but like no, it's it's a it's a really emotional thing. And you touched on this a little bit, Kelsey. And we're gonna then hop over in reverse, but like uh what do you have any tips for your future selves? Actually I'll put it up to popcorn, whoever wants to take it. Any tips for future Kelsey, future Isaac? Maybe you both want to speak to each other's futures. I don't know. But what would one's cast into the future either to do at the next GDC if you were to attend?
Can I do something real quick?
Sure.
Instead of me, current and soon past Isaac, talking to future Isaac,
Yeah.
I'm going to be future Isaac talking to past Isaac real quick.
Yeah. Go do the time stream. You have the ability. Go.
Don't go. You don't have any money. You cannot pay off these credit cards. Do not go. Okay, that's it. That's all for that one.
All that fuzz that you heard in the future, who anyone's listening, that was the message trying to get to the past. And if it doesn't work, we're sorry, we couldn't we couldn't decode it.
Yeah. Um I think having I didn't I was afraid to I tried to do everything with like a balance of I'm going to have some hard plans and some things are going to be open, and like sometimes that hard plan fell through and the thing was open was like I'm just in San Francisco really expensively but I'm not actually getting anything beneficial to me in any way, like, and I'm so tired I'm just going back to my hostel and staring at the ceiling and reading Blue Sky the same as Armani is. So it was weird to I was getting down on myself for wasting time, and some people are like you're not alone. some people they were out doing karaoke and they were making friendships, and I partially didn't do that because I'm a sober person and I generally just don't go to bars, and that's just what that is. But also, as an older disabled person, I don't stay up late at all, even without alcohol. So I could suggest to future Isaac, maybe try the Yerba Buena route, which means don't buy a pass whatsoever to GDC. Just hang out in the park because that's where everybody goes anyway. And watch the talks when they become free on YouTube. That's if I'm just talking about the financial aspect of it. Also, it keeps it simple. If I go to the park I'll see people and maybe there will be plans. The other aspect of it would be a bit more social, be a bit more open and forward, which, I was very close to people that I would love to become friends with because I like them a lot, but I didn't want to interrupt their conversation. And so I still don't know these people. I just know of them. And I don't know if that was the right call, but I'm terrified of being rude and awkward. So I just didn't. The thing I feel like some OGs suggested to all of us in the weeks leading up was like, don't network like you're in a suit with a briefcase and your tie with something to sell, being your skill set, hire me. Like, go there to be a person with the passions you have, and you'll make some friendships, and from those friendships, you may indirectly get some work. Just go be a person who does game dev. Because, well, I'm unemployed and would love a job in the industry. And they were like, if you go to GDC looking to work, it's an auto shop and you're going shopping for bread there. That doesn't work. Also, they'll smell it on you. Somebody, I forget, it was my mentor maybe. They were like, if you're desperate, they'll sniff it and they'll be like, this makes me feel weird. I'm going to go over there. So.
Not that honestly, real, raw, unprecedented. I know I appreciate that because it is difficult, and even like I'll say like when going to like Game Devs of Color, it's a virtual conference and I'm nervous. I don't want to interrupt anyone's conversation. They have this proximity thing where like if you get close enough, you can hear other people's conversations. I can't unmute and say, "Excuse me, I have something cool to say." Like that, who does that? And I think maybe that back and forth is Isaac as the person and finding ways to just be real and true to you. Because I know I would hate to hop mid conversation. This is just me. I hate to hop in mid conversation and it not go well, and then I'm spending the next 5 days thinking about how I bombed that conversation. And I'd rather live with myself. And even to that, it's just like maybe also when going to GDC, or if one would go, if even if one just wants to vibe in San Fran, just like anchor with people you're cool with, meet new people, but really don't create an experience where you're feeling kind of trapped. At least that's where I'm hearing from it. Kelsey, now we turn to you. What would Kelsey from the Event Horizon throw back uh, to GD or for advice for GDC,
Yeah.
future GDC?
Some of my points will add to what Isaac's saying here, in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
there are a lot of people in Yerba Buena, and that was where I had a lot of my great interactions with people. I was surprised to see that a lot of after events, you didn't need a GDC pass for per se. They'd have a link somewhere you could sign up. Sometimes you didn't have to sign up. You just show up, and they had free food, or they had, it'd be like women in gaming, or they had the zero proof alcohol night with wizards. If you're not, yeah, that one was nice, I thought. um I did talk to some organizations, like just volunteers, that kind of thing, and I found out there were people that got summit passes or all access passes just by volunteering at certain events. And I was like, wow, that might be worth looking into in the future. I do think it's worth going. And if you can't afford a pass, just don't get one because, like Isaac was saying, there's just people roaming around that would love to talk to you. Um, I think one thing I maybe might need to work on is that I am also looking for a job. So, and I didn't want anyone to smell any desperation on me, as you will. So, there were opportunities where I could have said something and I chose not to. Like, seeing we were talking to a recruiter, having a great time, and I didn't bring up, hey, do you have any UX roles? But my friend that I met like 5 hours ago was in the conversation and he asked on my behalf, which was great for me. And now I have a call with that company this week. So I'm really excited about that. But I realized, it's finding the right atmosphere where it's comfortable to ask those kind of questions goes a long way. Because there were people that were very nervous going into conversations and they weren't sure exactly what to say, and it's really more about you're just two people in the same space at the same time. Just don't really expect anything, but just be human essentially, and that'll take you pretty far.
I love how there's just a pocket dimension around GDC where everyone's just vibing, volunteer passes, chilling yerba buena. I'll be real, for anyone's listening to this, I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's a hotel or a place.
Yerba Buena Gardens is a park
Park.
right by the Moscone Center. It's just like, so let's see. Here, I don't have a
It's
whiteboard here,
it's
but
okay.
wait, I do.
You can. All right. Here comes the whiteboard.
So
Oh wow, actually,
here
no.
is the world.
Yes.
Here's Moscone, and there's like two things. There's like, here's west, here's like south or north or whatever, and here's west, and then here's Yerba Buena. So it's like, here's billions of dollars and here's thousands of devs. That's what GDC is.
Love that. Love that. So the advice that I'm hearing is be a person in the pocket dimension next to GDC. And if you want to go in your niche, do it. If you want to go with your other homies or find new homies, do it. I think that's beautiful and human advice. I appreciate both of you. I think that with today's episode, that's a perfect place to just cut it. Remember, if you're listening, at the end of the day, be a person. It'll get you so
Hey,
far. Who
this
would
is a
have
little
thought?
nuanced, but I'd like to clarify. I'm
Uh-oh.
not saying GDC isn't worth it. I'm saying GDC is expensive.
That's a listen, like that's also why like I didn't throw in the what would you do if money was no object? Because it is an object. Like
I buy Ubisoft.
there you go. See, the answers are all simple when all the money's in your hands, right?
I'd be a
But
janitor, Armani.
really, okay,
No.
that's cool. You have to stop being mean. That should be a person. Be a nice person. Uh, all in all, thank you everyone so much for attending this episode. Before we sign off, please, we started with Isaac, so we're gonna hop over to Kelsey. I like doing this ping pong. Share, where can people find you on the interwebs if you want to be found at all?
Yeah, you can talk to me on LinkedIn if you want. So I'm Kelsey Phelan, Phelan.
Sweet, I'll pop that in the show notes. Isaac, where can we find you?
JIsaacGadient.com. JISAACGADIENT.com. I am a writer, narrative designer, available freelance, or just have me on retainer and I'll speak poems into your ear.
That's beautiful. With that silky, jazzy voice, I can personally say I've seen the work of both of these individuals, and I am honestly blown away with what they're cooking in Small Loan. So, much love, peace, and hair grease. This is Armani Boone for Small Loan, and we'll catch you in the next one.